Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Embrace family. Thanks for joining me for this week's Friday reminder and allowing me to be a part of your Friday. My name is Jacquelyn. I am the lead for the Northeast region of Embrace. Embrace is a comprehensive convert care organization that empowers converts to Islam. About once a month, I am slotted to present the Friday reminder, and I have started my reminders. Typically, I'll go over a companion of the Prophet on them, and I have loved it so much that I did that many months and will continue to do so. But this week, I am going to shake it up and give myself and everyone else a special reminder. Today, we're going to talk about the Sunnah of self care and how important it is to care for ourselves, our minds, and our bodies. How did I even get on this topic? Well, part of it is a little bit of poor planning on my part and also some unexpected challenges that I was hitting in the week. I had a very challenging yesterday, and normally on Thursdays I plan in a lot of my self-care. It's, you're a little bit over the halfway mark of your week and it's something to look forward to, but I got a very unexpected events that happened early in the day that completely physically and emotionally drained me by the time it was afternoon. And so instead of thinking about preparing my typical Friday reminder, I thought most of the times when I'm doing the reminders, I need them more than all of you who are watching need them. And so I decided to do this topic of self care. Um, as reverts, we come into Islam and we have a lot of energy and excitement. And for a short while, that might mask some of the new challenges that you're going through or you're going to face, or the old challenges that you had prior to entering Islam with your own internal or external struggles. That new convert high kind of takes over. However, converting to Islam doesn't always automatically change bad habits or past traumas or mental and physical health issues. And it's important for us to remember that with the right intention, any act of self care can also be an act of worship, an act of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us these minds and our bodies and our capacity, which He loaned to us for this dunya, and which we have to answer for, the care of in the akhirah. So, as a disclaimer, I'm not a scholar, but rather someone who loves to learn and apply Islam to my life and share with others. Anything that I do say that is beneficial is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything that I say that is incorrect or wrong is due to my own faults and misunderstandings. So, let us begin. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu ala rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa mani taba al huda. All praises due to Allah and blessings upon the Prophet of Allah, upon his family and his companions, and all who follow him. So, why is self care so important? We mentioned already that we'll have to answer for the treatment of our minds and of our bodies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, simply put, self care in itself can be an act of worship with the right intentions. But also, as the world is opening up, as we're getting used to dealing, with life post COVID, our calendars are getting busy. Maybe your social tolerance is lower and you're getting burnout more quickly. And so that care of ourselves is starting to shrink as well with being busy. And we may start to see some poorer qualities in ourselves that you didn't see before because you were taking care of yourself. You had more time for that. And some of those things, like maybe snapping at people that are closest to you when you're talking to them, or gaining a couple pounds because you're eating more fast food or convenience foods, or even just allowing some anxieties to creep in and opening yourself up to negative self-talk and judgment of others. This is, we're human after all. We're not perfect. And sometimes thinking like taking a break or not being at full capacity like you once were, or saying no to an opportunity to do good, it might seem selfish. But in reality, if that's what you really need in order to be the best version of yourself, the version of yourself that is excited excited to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and pray and do those acts of worship, and the person of yourself that is best to the people that are closest to you, then it could be the exact opposite of being selfish. It could be something that is giving you the capacity to be selfless. So, always there's the example of being on an airplane. So on an airplane, they give instructions to everyone, and about putting your oxygen mask on, right? So what's the instructions? That you put your own on first before you put it on the person next to you, because if you don't put yours on first, you may not have the energy to help others, right? In an emergency situation. And this is how we need to look at our daily care of ourselves, that we're giving ourselves the energy, we're giving ourselves the care in order to live our lives and be of service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be of service to our communities and our families. So why is it so easy? It makes me question, why is it so easy for us to follow the sunnah of healthy financial planning as a service to others or religious obligations, but not in our own well-being? We know, when it comes to finances, it's more of a blessing to spend on ourselves and be self-sufficient and spend on our families before we start spending on others. And we know, it's super easy to go do things for others, but not for ourselves. And we're not looking at our well-being in the same way as we look at these other aspects of our religion. Is it because we don't see the importance in ourselves? Is it that the mind and, in that importance of the mind and the body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifted us? The Prophet ﷺ said, according to a hadith narrated by Abu Huraira, that the best of charity is that which is given when you are self-sufficient, and to start with those whom you are responsible, meaning those your family, those ties that you're responsible for. So looking at this hadith, we can question, what is charity? Charity in itself isn't just the monetary things that we do, which is great in itself, and I would never discourage anyone from giving charity, but it can be as simple as a smile or the time and energy we put into serving ourselves and our families. So in order to be self-sufficient in all aspects of our lives and to give charity, we give it to ourselves and our loved ones first. And this is a form of self-care. And today we're going to be going over some self-care strategies that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. And I encourage you all to pick one for yourself, perform it today, make sure you do something for yourself today, and maybe begin throughout the week to implement something as a habit. Implement something that as a habit that makes you feel good so that you can then go do good for others. And please share strategies that you use in the comments below. So first, I'm going to start with we're going to go through the easier stuff, the daily self-care. So daily self-care comes a little bit easier because this is something you normally implement that's already a habit. But let's briefly touch on some things that the Prophet ﷺ did to care for himself. We know that he kept his physical body clean, he smelled pleasant, and he used miswak to freshen his breath and clean his teeth. And so this is something we do, most of us, inshallah, do already. We brush our teeth daily, we shower regularly. Men wear perfume so that they smell good. And keeping ourselves clean and fresh is another way of self-care. Maybe you go get facials or go get massage. And these are ways that we're taking care of ourselves. And another form of easy daily self-care is expressing gratitude. When we pray, it's recommended that we seek forgiveness and express gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before asking for assistance or asking for his help. And so recognizing what blessings we already have is a part of our daily Islamic lifestyle that allows us to maintain a positive mindset. So these are two things. It takes care of our body and our mind that we probably already do on a daily basis. So what about bodily self-care? Many of us know that the eating rules of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said to eat 1/3 in food and 1/3 in water and 1/3 in air when you're having a meal. That we as Muslims try to find balance. We don't try to stretch our stomach so full of food and drink that it's hard for us to move or to walk or to stay awake. And eating well and eating food that is nourishing for our bodies is a sunnah in itself. And if you look at the favorite foods of the Prophet ﷺ, you can see this. These are very nourishing, simple foods like dates and honey and watermelon. The Prophet ﷺ said, "There's no vessel which the son of Adam can fill that is worse than his stomach, for it is enough for him to take a few bites in order to straighten his back. Yet, if he is unable to do so, then he may fill it with 1/3 of food, 1/3 of drink, and 1/3 of his breath." Um, Another sunnah is exercise and physical activity. The Prophet ﷺ and his companions had far more physical, active lives than most of us have today. But even with that daily physical activities, he did make time for things like play with his family and racing. Aisha radiallahu anha famously narrated that the Prophet ﷺ raced her on multiple occasions when she was young and when she grew older. So keeping care of our physical bodies so that we're able to maintain our worship, so that we're able to pray or to be there with our families and just feel, better in your own skin is a way to keep your mental health healthy as well. Um, when we My absolute favorite sunnah of physical self-care, and I think a lot of people's, is taking a nap. It was reported that the Prophet ﷺ would take a nap between Dhuhr and Asr. And now, not all of us have time to do that, but sleep is an important function that allows our body to cleanse itself, to repair itself, to store memories. And sleep quality can affect stress and mental health. And sometimes all we need is for a fresh perspective, is just to take a nap. And that's something that I did implement yesterday when things got really crazy before I went out to go for my run camp, was take a nap, because I, I to get that mental energy because I am not a runner, to go and run, I needed a little bit of a break just to get a fresh perspective to push myself to do something that was already difficult for me to do. So when we have bodily self-care and we seek cures for ourselves and our illnesses, are moderate in what we eat and can perform physical activities, not only are we giving care and respect to the gift that our bodies are, and that we're able to perform better in charity with our families and in our mental capacity. Now for kind of the more meat of self-care. So we have some daily things, our physical things. Everybody knows the importance. But what about self-care in the times that are distress, when you're in distress? Um, Again, a reminder more for myself than anyone else. This last year has been extremely challenging, and it felt like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept testing me with many calamities at once. And it was like a tower of blocks where things were being stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked so high that it felt like if you were to put one more block on top, everything was going to collapse. And one of the things that we keep repeating, and many people keep repeating, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us that with hardship comes ease. Not that after the hardship comes the ease, but with it. So we are never promised that hardship will end, but that there will be relief within it. And we know this because the challenges in life are constant, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us those tools to better ourselves and to better handle these challenges. He also reminds us that in the Quran, chapter 13, verse 28, verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. There are calamities that strike you that make it very easy for us to perform dhikr and to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And alhamdulillah for those challenges. And if they bring you closer to your Lord. There are other things that might shake you to your core and make you feel ashamed to turn to your Lord. And how do we deal with those calamities? How do we find comfort and self-care in those times? And from my very humble experience, the best thing I can say is show up and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anyway. That you, in all circumstances, Even when you're feeling ashamed, you hold on to your dhikr or your remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which are what these verses did for me and continue to do. And you hold on to those sunnah prayers and turn to Him anyway. Um, so, keeping up with those 5 daily prayers, maybe you don't have the energy to perform the sunnah. Maybe you don't have, which is the extra prayers. Maybe you don't have it seems really daunting to do extra fasting or other forms of extra worship, but holding on to the fard or the obligatory, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts benefit in those. We turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day, even if you feel shame. And maybe you keep making those same mistakes because you're distressed, you're stressed, you're in a time where, things are difficult. And so you keep making these mistakes. But remembering that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all of this and He knows you, and He's the most merciful and He's the most forgiving. And when you can't find mercy for yourself or you're not able to forgive yourself, remembering that you're only human and you have human capacity, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's capacity is infinitely greater than that. And so never be ashamed or distressed to turn to Him because His capacity is greater than yours. Prayer in itself can be very healing and meditative. And many times I hear people say that they're struggling with anxiety or another affliction. And so when they ask, for advice or what to use, I ask them how they're doing with their prayer, and they will respond, I don't pray, but I know when I do pray, I feel better. So why do we do this? Why do we turn away from prayer when we know it makes us feel better? Just like eating healthy and doing exercise, which is what we just talked about, sometimes the temporary pleasure of eating something that's not as healthy and processed foods, or sitting still and not moving your body and being a little bit lazy and having comfort, it masks the long-term benefits of doing something that brings us health, joy, and peace. And that, I think, sometimes happens with prayer. Some people find comfort in meditation, in mantra, and yoga, and we have it all programmed, as Muslims in our 5 times a day. I mentioned once to a couple of coworkers, they asked me, about drinking and why I don't drink. And I explained to them that, I'm very comfortable in myself and I don't suffer from social anxiety. And this was a long conversation. And after that, they responded very playfully and they said, yeah, of course you don't, because you pray 5 times a day. That makes sense to them. See, now if they're not Muslims, they get it, right? They get it. When you turn to pray 5 times a day, it's a very healing and meditative process. And so I didn't need other forms to ease those types of anxieties. And I also like to remember that this is the only act of worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the only act of worship that is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fasting. So the prayer that He prescribed is for our benefit and not for His. Obviously, there's benefits to us in fasting, but doing the prayer 5 times a day is for our benefit, to give us relief from those daily stresses of life. So let's talk a little bit about self-care in terms of reflection and comforting support systems. So sometimes we do have to say, we have to make space in our life for self-respect reflection. We have to say no, and it feels selfish. I remember a time when I felt most put together, and I'm still working on that finding that space and utilizing my capacity. I was working multiple jobs, running a nonprofit, keeping up with my health, my family, and I implemented a tool that I've just started implementing again recently, and it was called a me day. And maybe you don't have a whole day, you have a half a day, you have a couple hours. I scheduled 2 me days a month just to do whatever I wanted to do. And most of the time, this was reflecting. It was sitting alone, turning off my phone, doing something quiet at home, whether it's organizing things and my thoughts, or painting and doing something creative, or reading, or watching a movie that's just going to give me a good cry. And it feels selfish sometimes to say no to people who want to spend time with us. But having a free day or some free time scheduled for you can can really make you more refreshed and present with people when you're with them instead of burnt out. And reminds me of the Prophet ﷺ in that he spent time alone in the cave of Hira. And what happened in that cave, what happened after he came out of that isolation was precious, precious revelation. And so I'm not expecting to get life altering revelation from a me day, but taking some time to reflect, declutter, working on something creative, getting in a good cry can be grounding. It can give you energy to face the challenges of life and be kinder to the people around you and excel in your work or in your volunteering. Oftentimes, it can bring you new ideas because you're not running on empty. You've stored up some energy to kind of receive those ideas and not revelation, but revelation in a way for your work or for your home or an aha moment that just makes things click. Um, and so and it makes us ready for those like life changes and next steps that need to be taken to improve ourselves and our lives. But what happens after the Prophet ﷺ received revelation? And this is why I paired this hand in hand. He had a lot of fear and worry and anxiety over what just happened. And sometimes this can also happen to us. You have that aha moment and then you're just surged with energy. You took some time for yourself and now you feel rushed, you have to do something. So what did he do? He went to the comfort of his wife Hadija, who covered him with her clothes and offered him a piece of solitude. And so this is an example of the importance of also finding people that you can connect with, people you trust, people who can bring you comfort so that you can turn to them in times of distress. And this can be difficult if you're a person who's used to handling everything alone, or you feel like a burden, and it's likely but it's good to remember that likely you would do the same thing for somebody who came to you, a loved one who came to you in needs of distress. And in fact, sharing your feelings with a close friend, a family member, or a spouse can strengthen your relationship. And oftentimes, sharing your pain can make others feel less alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us as social creatures. He made us in pairs. He gave us families. He gave us companions to help us walk through life. So we might as well utilize this in a way that pleases him. So self-care in itself is not only for when things get overwhelming or stressful. We went over a lot of different, between just the day-to-day self-care to what, things that you can do in times of distress. It's not just a term that we use when we're burnt out to tell people to stay away. We're under construction, or don't come to the construction zone. It's a day-to-day experience that allows us to build our capacity to better serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to better serve our families, to better serve our communities, and to better ourselves, because we want to work on our character and we want to be better. Otherwise, why come, as a convert, you're coming to Islam, you're changing your entire religion to be better, to have a better life, and to be your best version of yourself. And this is the way that you see that that's the way you want to go. This is the path. This is the right path for you. And sometimes self-care, it looks like brushing your teeth daily or twice a day, like you should, and flossing, or building a healthy lifestyle. Other times it looks like slowing down and saying no and doing what you enjoy, or finding pleasure in things that are halal, like outdoor activities, enjoying nature. Sometimes it looks like having a good cry, or confiding in someone you trust in, or enjoying a favorite food. And so we need habits that help us with daily self-care, but we also need to build that toolbox of things that we can do when something unexpected comes up and we find that we need something different within that moment. And so it's not only that self-care is a way of showing gratitude. Not only is it us following the path of the Prophet ﷺ, it makes us better. It builds our capacity to be with our, a better husband or wife, a better parent, a better son, a daughter, a better community member. And it can, with the right intention, be an act of worship. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me to be a part of their Friday. I hope that you all have a wonderful and blessed Friday. Please remember to send salams. The Prophet send them, his wives, his family, and his companions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Until next time, bye.